Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, depending on what time zone you're in or what time you're watching this video. Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be watching Dominoes by Ren. But before I continue, I want to tell everybody that there is a form, Google form, it's like a survey thing, attached below if you would like to check in on that and give your opinion on what you think the community name should be. I was supposed to do that last time, but I am a very forgetful person sometimes, so I forgot. But this time I will link it below. There are some awesome names all submitted by viewers, and honestly, it's so cool. You guys are a fantastic community, and honestly, I couldn't be happier to be a part of it. So thank you guys for all the love, support, and just how amazing you guys have been. Honestly, this has just been such a fantastic journey to go on with all of you, and I'm happy to continue it today with Dominoes by Ren. So without further ado, let's get on with the show, shall we? I love this guitar.
Oh, you build this like dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling. Oh, you build this like dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling. You build us up just to knock us back down. Funny how you act surprised when we hit the ground. We're like dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling.
There's so many situations that this applies to when you think about like capitalism. You think about like social identity, all that kind of stuff. There's so many expectations, and then like just so many things come to mind. But one of the things I want to just say here is listen to the way he's singing this. It's almost like he's afraid to be heard. Like he's kind of singing it quietly because he's afraid of who's listening, and it's almost like a whisper right now. But the imagery is so vivid because it's like as you kind of, if we think about like the idea of capitalism, it's like you set people up to constantly think that they need more and more and more, and then eventually they topple over because they just can't reach the expectations or the money that they need to be what they consider happy. And that's insane. What a great kind of way to visualize that. But then it's like you set us up to knock us back down because you're standing us up. You're telling us how we should be living our lives, but it's a way that's ultimately going to falter or make us fail and fall. And that's what we're talking about here, is that ultimately it's kind of a self-destructive process. And that's amazing. And then when you think about the idea of dominoes, it's like one person falls and it leads to the next person, leads to the next person in terms of visualizing what dominoes look like. What a beautifully sad sentiment. Holy smokes.
So bleed me of all my self-belief. My smile shows all.
I have to pause. I honestly didn't hear anything he just said because I'm trying to figure out what that sound is in the back. I don't know what it was, but it sounded almost like a cash register. I don't know if I'm still kind of in the money game idea, or it even sounded like maybe dominoes toppling, or it even hoofs of horses. I'm not entirely sure what it is. Whatever that sound was, I really enjoyed that. So I'm going to go back a bit just to clear that up.
So bleed me of all my self-belief. My smile shows all my insecurity. In the kingdom of photoshopped kings and queens will never feel happy with ourselves, but insecurity sells.
Oh man, okay, this is going... I connect with this on a very deep level, or just like the idea of this. There's standards that are set by like media and by everything, by Instagram, by social media, by like what you see on advertisements, all that stuff. Standards that you were expected, or that we set as like the beauty standard, and then we're set up to believe that that's what we should be like. That's what we should look like. That's how we should be, and it's impossible. It's quite literally impossible because a lot of that is done with Photoshop, with editing. And what Ren is doing here is saying that ultimately, like, you bleed us of our self-belief because blood is what we need to survive. But you're slowly bleeding out our self-belief over time because we start to lose it. And when you lose it, blood is what keeps you alive. So losing your self-belief is almost like part of you is dying. And that's kind of the visualization there. But then ultimately here, it's like, we're being set up to fail because that's what insecurity sells, right? Insecurity is what makes us go and like buy beauty products, buy makeup, buy hair products. I don't need too much of that. But all that kind of stuff. And yet we do it because of these false standards that are set by these images that aren't even real, right? They're not something that is attainable because it's not even real. It's photoshopped. And then we see all these people on these like billboards in the movies and TV, and we're like, wow, I want to be like that. And then you look at yourself and then you feel this immediate sense of, I'll never be like that. And then you try to kind of fix that by going out to buy things that make you feel like you look or feel better. And oftentimes, like, man, just be yourself, right? Because those beauty standards are whack. They're not even real. Beauty isn't on the outside, it's on the inside. I'm going to try to crib it for now because I feel like this is what it's going to be about. So I'm going to hold on to that a little bit. But man, this is already like, I already love and hate that how true this song is going to be.
Dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling. Oh, you build us like dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling. You build us up just to knock us back down. Funny how you act surprised when we hit the ground. We're like dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling.
Something cool there is he added like his voice in the harmony there. And it's almost like I feel like more and more people are picking up the message, and that's why there's another voice now, because you hear the higher pitched voice in the background, and it's almost like it's starting to support that. And even the music is a bit bouncier. It's like adding to the wave of I'd like to think change. That's really cool.
I hide my head under the sheets, 'cause how can I face a world that ridicules the weak? Where beauty is sold on the shelves, forbid that we find it in ourselves. And now I'm broke, it don't come cheap. Oh, you build this like.
And like that, the line about ridiculing the weak, that is so accurate. Because like not only are we sold beauty standards, but we're told what we're expected to, how we're expected to behave. And if you don't meet the expectations, you are lesser than. But it's absolutely not true. It's what we talked about before. Sometimes you need other people in your corner because no one can do everything. That's impossible. That's an expectation that just cannot be met. And if someone is weak in a moment, that doesn't mean they're weak as a person. Even if they're weak in a specific area, that does not mean they're weak as a person. And I hate that so much because that happens so often, right? People get ridiculed, people get like bullied about things that they're not good at or things that they can't even change. And then how is that supposed to make you feel, right? How are you supposed to do anything about that? Like when you're growing up, especially because like I work as a teacher, I see this all the time. And like I try to curb it as best as you can, but I don't know what happens outside the classroom, so I can't always change everything. But when you were, even as I was a kid, like I was bullied for being overweight. That's something I can control, but like just the mental impact that it had on me is profound. And it's a weakness in the sense of that's not what's expected of us in society. And so you take things that people feel weak about and you exploit them, and then you make them feel horrible about it. And then all of a sudden now it's something they're constantly thinking about. And even sometimes like you don't even think about what you say might have such a big impact, but someone could think about it years down the road. I know I do about certain things. And that's the nature of society at times, or at least in this current times, where there are these very obvious expectations of most people. And my God, like it's a terrible thing to see. It's just, as a whole, it's just so terrible.
Dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling. Oh, you built us like dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling. You build us up just to knock us back down. Funny how you act surprised when we hit the ground. We're like dominoes, dominoes, dominoes falling.
Funny how you act surprised when you hit the ground too. Like I didn't touch on that yet, but when you think about what that means, it's like dominoes, you set them up, right? You set them up with the intention to knock them down. And it's like everything that we're fed, everything that we're told is set up to make us feel bad. And then people are surprised when like people don't feel good about themselves, when there's a lack of self-esteem in the general populace. Well, of course, when you're feeding us all these things that we're expected to meet these expectations, and we just can't, because like when you think about like even the most like the actors and actresses in Hollywood, right? They are able to spend hours a day doing fitness with nutrition, having the money to buy the things that they need to look that good. And then on top of that, they're still photoshopped, right? We could never do all of those things, especially not in real life, right? Like that doesn't happen. And we see these dominoes being set up of this is what it's supposed to be like. And then as soon as we have this idea of, oh, that's the standard, that's what I should be meeting, and we can't do it because it's impossible, then we feel terrible about ourselves, and then we feel like we've fallen. We feel like less of a person. And that's the dominoes. You set them up with the expectations, and then you knock them down so that they now feel terrible inside. And how do you try to fix it? By doing things on the outside. You get makeup, you get you get surgeries, everything. You try to make yourself feel better with all these terrible things that aren't going to change, like that aren't actually needed, right? Like you don't need those things to be beautiful. Beauty is on the inside. And even as I say this, I know for myself, even I have a lot of self-esteem issues around the way that I look. And I shouldn't, because beauty is not a set standard, but that's how like ingrained all these societal thoughts have become, which is so painful to think about that we have come to this point. Oh man. All right. It's going to be one of these videos.
Araya was the most beautiful girl in this world. She shined like diamonds and rubies and pearls. But then, as soon as she turned 13, she forgot just how bright that it was that she gleamed. Stuck in the material world of magazines that glamourize fake and Photoshop beauty queens. Top 10 beauty tips making her feel inadequate. For the first time in her life, she felt ugly. So Araya stopped eating to lose weight. She spent her dinner money on some makeup for her face. But no matter how much she lost or how much she bought, she was never good enough, or so she thought. Araya felt she could never be loved. She started cutting her wrists and hiding her scars with gloves. At 16, an anorexic beauty queen, she collapses in a puddle of her tears and blood, cause she never felt enough. She never felt enough. Your sellers all this lie that we must buy to keep in touch. We can never buy enough. Never buy enough. All the riches in the world can't buy a sense of self-love. Funny how you act surprised when depression's levels rise, when you force feed inadequacy straight into our eyes. Television shows that praise the beautiful people, and talent competitions that just laugh at the feeble. Billboards. Oh my
God. That's it. That's what it is, right? We like this is it's a parasite. The idea of beauty, beauty is not one level. That's not the same for everyone. What some person thinks is beautiful is not the same for another person. But on top of that, like you can't like what he just said about the girl who ultimately, like, she was beautiful until she started looking into magazines, like reading all these things about beauty, and then it changed her perception of what society is. Because before that, before you start paying attention to stuff like that, you don't care as much, right? It's not as big of an issue because you don't have those societal expectations. But then as they start to seep into your life through movies, through TV, through all this stuff, slowly over time, your perception of self changes. You try to reach these things, these goals that you see on TV in movies, but they're unreachable. You cannot do that. And as a result, you try harder, right? It's not that you stop because you think, wait a minute, you can't stop and take a minute to kind of step out of it and be like, is that really beauty? Is that really what it means to be beautiful? Because we're just not conditioned that way, right? As humans, we're a social creature. We think about each other all the time. And so when we see that these are the people that are praised, these are the people that are earning lots of attention and are liked by so many people, well, then we think, well, that's how we have to be. And so we change everything about ourselves. And holy shit, like the thing about people, like the girl in this song who starts to cut herself and then starts to change the way that she lives, she changes her diet and then ultimately ends up killing herself. Like, that's very real, right? This happens. And it's a tragedy. Like, it's a freaking tragedy because it's a result of how just like mutated our idea of what we should be is as a result of what we see in society. And I hate that because, my God, beauty is not on the outside. A beautiful person on the outside can still be a terrible person on the inside. But more than that, beauty is not one set standard, right? What I think is beautiful is not what you think is beautiful. And it's not the same for anybody. But then we try to aim for these goals and it ruins us. It ruins us. It ruins our perception of other people. It ruins our perception of ourselves. It makes us think, oh, maybe this should be different. Maybe that should be different. And slowly our whole life kind of crumbles under the pressures of society. And it's a horrible, horrible process. And I hate it. My God. And then the thing he said there, we laugh at those. I missed what exactly he said. What did he say here? Sorry. Talent competitions. That's the one that laugh at the feeble. Like, take a second to really think about that. You go on to a competition and you have this sense of, I can maybe be something, right? And then you put your heart on the line, you put your courage on the line, and then all of a sudden, even like, I get that it's a competition, and I get that, like, maybe if you're going on the stage, you should have like a certain level of power or talent. But even just having the courage to go up there, everyone should be praised. Every single person that steps on that stage should be praised because they had the courage to stand in front of thousands of people in the audience, but then millions of people on the screen. And yet when someone does poorly, we laugh at them. We say, wow, look at that. Look at that. They were so bad at what they did. I can't believe they stepped on that stage. It's like, yeah, but imagine how much courage that takes. And you know, the worst part is when they step off that stage after being laughed at, is that courage is quite possibly broken forever. Because now it's this moment in their life where they're like, I can never put myself out in a position like that ever again, because now I know what it feels like to be ridiculed by literally thousands upon millions of people. And that's terrible. It's just so terrible. And he said force-fed inadequacy through our eyes, because we see all these things on Instagram, on TV, on social media, on everything, on TikTok, whatever it might be. And we see these people with like lives or just like image that looks so great. But really think about what that is. It's social media. It's media. You don't show people the bad side of yourself on social media, for sure. That never happens. And media, obviously there are times where that happens, but that's not usually the focus, and that's not usually what makes you feel inadequate. But if you're surfing through Instagram, you see all these people looking so happy, looking so like what you imagine to be fit, or looking so beautiful and glamorous. And then you look at it and you keep scrolling. There's so many. You could go and do this for hours, and all those hours spent change your mind. They change your brain. They change the neural network in your brain to feel inadequate. You start visualizing how you should look, or visualizing what you need to do to be better. But you don't need to be better. You're fine just the way you are. You are beautiful just the way you are. And not enough people understand that. And it's a lot to do with the fact that now we have so much access to these, to social media, that forces us to feel inadequate, because we're seeing all of the good sides of people online, but we don't stop to think, well, there are also bad times. And these are also images that are likely filtered or photoshopped in some way, shape, or form. But it doesn't cross our minds as much when we're scrolling through and we see like thousands of pictures potentially of smiling faces in these like glamorous setups with millions of likes. And we're like, well, if those people are being liked, maybe that's what I should be like. Man, I'm sorry. I'm getting really riled up at this. This is something that like, I hate the way society has gone in this direction so much.
For the feeble, billboards, magazines, people turn to plasticine, molded like a factory. We're growing up to fear, feeling ugly. It's lunacy, and not even a community. Cause insecurity breeds judgment, judgment breeds hate, no unity.
Oh man. Oh my God, breeds judgment, and judgment breeds hate, no unity. Ain't that the truth? Like, he said we're molded like plasticine. We're plasticine people because we're molded like a factory, because our minds are molded to tell us how we should feel. But then on top of that, our bodies are molded to fit into the societal standards, right? And then on top of that, he's saying judgment breeds hate, no unity, because you start to judge as a result of what you expect people to look like. And you say, that person, their hair, I don't really like it. And that's a judgment. You look at that person, they're a little bit short, I don't like it. That person, whatever, X, Y, Z. As soon as you start doing that, that breeds hate because it develops either in them or in yourself, because you start seeing them as a inadequate person, or they start feeling inadequate as a result of what you said, and that breeds hate in them. It does not breed unity. That's not how you bring people together. But you know what? It sells. It sells really well. And that's the problem, is that it sells like hotcakes. As soon as you start kind of doing this, you start thinking, oh, okay, well, I know how to look better now. I'll go and buy this product. I'll go and do this cleanse. I don't know, whatever it might be. God, Ren, my God, man. Like,
hierarchy based upon aesthetics is what makes a kid in school get bullied for genetics. And I felt so ugly growing up. The way that I look sometimes got me beaten up. I mean, what the fuck sort of culture do we live in when we're defined by the shape of our face, when we're ashamed by the size of our waist, when we're imprisoned by the form that we take?
Or imprisoned by the form that we take, yo. And something he said there, like, people literally get bullied for genetics. It's like, honestly, like when I started, like on my hair, I started losing it when I was like 20 something, and not many people said anything about it, but in my inside, I felt like I was less, because that's how we look at society, right? Now I'm kind of happy about it because I just cut it all off, and now I don't have to think about it as much because I can just shower, get ready, and go, which is honestly quite a plus. But that aside, like, that was a societal expectation that started changing the way I felt. And it wasn't something I could have done anything about because it's genetic, right? It's not something that you can biologically change, which means you can't even, what are you supposed to do in that situation? And then people get beat up and bullied for stuff like that. I used to be extremely overweight as a kid, and I got bullied a lot for that. And that is something that is creating this divisiveness, this separation, this hate, this no unity that Ren was just talking about. And then it all kind of manifests into this depression that you see, like in terms of like the world. There's this overarching idea of everyone feels inadequate because of something they sometimes can't even change. And it's just it's a horrible kind of existence that we live in in that sense, which is why, like, at the end of the day, it's like just love who you are, love what you are, and just be you, because you can't necessarily change every part of you, and you don't need to change any part of you to make anyone else happy, because all that matters is if you are happy and you're not hurting anyone else. That's all that's important. I'm gonna go back a bit.
By the size of our waist, when we're imprisoned by the form that we take, and so we keep buying and spending. That's just how this story goes. You build us up just to knock us back down, and we just keep falling like dominoes.
Okay. First of all, I want everyone watching this video to just remember that what society has set as standards are not what you should have to meet. That is not what happiness is. Happiness is found in yourself, in the way that you see the world, in the way that you think. It is not found externally. Changing the way that you look on the outside will not change the way that you feel on the inside. It's an internal process that can ultimately affect happiness. And that's very, very important. And I don't think enough people know that. But beyond that, like, what Ren said is honestly, like, it's so true. The way that society has been shaped and formed, we basically feed people this idea of what it means to be happy, what it means to be beautiful. And when they can't reach that idea, even though that idea is falsified, it's not even real, it's fake, because we made it up. We brewed it using Photoshop, or we brewed it through things that are impossible for most people to do, like spending thousands upon thousands of dollars on surgery, or spending hours and hours in the gym, which is just impossible. And so when we see that, we feel inadequate, and then we begin to want to change ourselves on the outside. And so we spend millions of dollars as a collective group on products that are supposed to make that feel better, and they don't. What will feel better is understanding that you are important, you are loved, you are fantastic the way that you are. And if people don't understand that, then they're not worth having around. And that's a tough pill to swallow. Because if there are people that don't see the value in you, then they are not worth having around. And that's the harsh truth. But I will tell you right now, you have value. Your heart has value. Your dreams have value. And don't you ever give those up. Because who are we if we give those up? That's when we fall, truly fall. Okay, clearly this one, I'm a little attached to this topic, but my God, if it's not all true, like, just guys, you are beautiful, you are fantastic, you are amazing people, and honestly, just from the community alone, we've seen that there's the discussions that we've had, the support that we show each other, the love that we share, and the bond that we have. That's what's important. Looks don't mean anything. They only mean something because we are told they're supposed to mean something. But in the end, they don't mean a damn thing. They are not what is going to be remembered about you. What people will remember about you is the way that you made them feel. And if you make them feel like shit over the way that they look, or make them feel bad, or you as yourself, like you can't find the happiness, like you are going to remember that. And that's not how you want to be remembered. Be remembered for being content with yourself and being content with your life and being able to help the others around you feel content with the things in their lives, because that's what's important. We need to be there to support each other. We need to be there to help each other, and we need to be there to help each other feel better. Lift each other up and feel amazing. Oh man. Okay. If you liked what you saw, God, every time after these, it's so weird to do this. If you liked what you saw, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm so thrown off now. I hope that your day or your week is better than your day, your month is better than your week, and your year is better than your month. I love each and every one of you. You guys are awesome and fantastic, and just the way that you are. Please never change, and I'll see you on the next one.